Okay, today we're going to talk about group discussion, and our topic is leader tips. Now, there's a lot of things that a leader needs to do. We can't go over all of them in this short little segment. Rules is talked about in another, will be talked about in another one, and preparing to lead a discussion group. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what the leader can do when they're actually in the discussion environment. Now, preparing for the discussion, the leader needs at all times to be an example. Go through our reading skills and use them. Encourage the people in your group to use them. Your discussion will be a direct reflection of your preparation beforehand and the quality of the books that you choose. So if the leader creates the group in a way that they should, and if they are an example of the reading skills, of reading properly, and an example of discussing properly, then that will set the tone for everybody else. The first time I ever really put together a formal book group and led it, the very first meeting we ever had, I got everyone together and I told them about the books that I was reading and what a blast I was having, and that I had learned some reading skills, and I was shocked at the response. Everybody was so excited about this. Just the fact that I was reading and I was having a great experience and I was learning all kinds of cool stuff made them want to, and they actually, some of them got out a piece of paper, well, tell me some of the reading skills that you've learned that I can use. And that book group grew and grew and grew and was a great experience. So you want to be an example of everything you teach. You want to be an example of being picky about the books that you choose, which we talked about in choosing a book, and be an example of the reading skills and preparing well before you get to the group. There's a few other things you can do during discussion that will be beneficial. Now, we're assuming today that we're in the discussion itself, and you've already prepared by creating, being clear about purposes and criteria for the books that you're choosing, and using other discussion, some of the purposes of discussion and the reasons for discussion, that kind of thing. As you get into the book group, these are some practical tips for when you're in the book group itself, what you can do. These apply in a family setting, they apply with youth, they apply with adults. The discussion will go better if, again, you're an example, you're on fire, you're excited, you're ready to go. The second thing that you want to do when you begin the discussion is you have a 5-minute intro. Now, of course, 5 minutes is a loose number. It could be 2 or 3. You don't want it to be more than 8 or 10. And what this is this can be almost anything, but it must be, it must be inspirational. If you don't want to start the group with a downer, it's got to be something exciting, positive, optimistic, inspirational. It could be something you learned in your research about the book or the author. It could be some of the reading skills you're practicing and what a great experience you're having. It could be something that you learned in the book that you've already applied and had a great experience that way. It could be something you've learned recently that kind of applies to what you're going to discuss that night. There's a lot of options here, but what you want to ask yourself is, how can I get us started right? How can I open the discussion in a way that everybody's going to be excited and on fire? And so that's what you want to do. You want to get the discussion off to a good start. What this does is sets the mood, right? Like, maybe we've been eating, maybe we've been socializing, maybe we've been catching up with friends, but now it's time to discuss. So we're kind of in our circle or around the table or whatever we are, or we're sitting on couches at home with our kids, and it's time to kind of start thinking. This gets mental juices flowing, right? Like, it gets everybody on the same page, thinking about some things. You might want to tie this intro into a theme. Like you might have already chosen a theme for that evening, or there might be a specific theme you want to bring out to begin the discussion, and so the inspirational thought has something to do with love or courage or parenting or endurance or whatever it is. So that's what that first 5 minutes introduction needs to be, and it gets everybody thinking. Then you're going to start the discussion with a great question. Ask a great question, okay? Now, we teach the 5 types of questions in the reading skills. Or maybe it's as a reading skill. And so, knowing those 5 types of questions will allow you to write better questions, and then you can go through your questions and decide which is a really great one to start off with. That's why I said maybe you want to focus on a theme, because then you can get the discussion going at a good rate based on one of your really great questions. So go through those 5 types of questions regularly. Make sure you note them in your book. We'll talk about that with the writing tips. Bookmarking tips, but you want to start the discussion off with a great question, and then guess what you want to do after you ask this incredible, life-changing, it doesn't have to be the best question there ever was. It just needs to be a question that is what? Open-ended, okay? No leading. Group leaders don't lead your groups. Ask open-ended questions. I'm telling you, refer often to the 5 types of questions. It will keep you from asking. There are only it's only knowledge questions that could even be closed-ended, and you can still ask knowledge questions in a way that are open-ended. Do not lead in your question that you ask and questions that you ask later on. Of course, you'll be an example of writing the 5 types of questions. You'll encourage the people in your group, or teach to your family or your youth group or whoever it is. You'll teach them the 5 types of questions, have them come to the blog and learn them here. And you'll encourage them to write questions because, of course, discussion goes well when everybody becomes prepared with questions. That's part of preparing to discuss. So you'll ask an open-ended question that you do not have a right answer to in the back of your mind, and then you're going to wait. Please wait. If you are not willing to wait, right there, wait. If you're not willing to wait, everybody's going to know in the future that they don't have to think. Because you're going to start the discussion with a question, and then you're going to answer your own question. You cannot use a discussion forum to put yourself on a soapbox. It doesn't matter who the audience is. It doesn't matter if it's one child, if it's your spouse, if it's your boss or your coworker. It does not matter who it is. If you ask a leading, closed-ended question and you're looking for the right answer, that is permission for everybody to stop thinking. Okay? So, if you want a great discussion, you had better be willing to wait and let everybody know that you're willing to wait because you wait. Maybe you need to ask the question a second time. Maybe you need to ask it in a new way. But you will ask a question that's quality because you've taken the time to think about it. Maybe it ties into things that you've discussed in the past. Again, it could tie into this 5-minute intro, but you let everybody, you've had time to think about it, the group has not, okay? So you're going to let them just kind of think over that question, and then somebody's going to give an answer. Now, this is a very important discussion leading tip. When people answer the first time, that's their off-the-cuff initial answer, okay? If you really want thinking to happen, then you ask the next question, which is almost always why. So you're going to ask the next question. So, okay, let's think of one. maybe I'm doing Pride and Prejudice, for example, and maybe we've kind of been talking, maybe it's a group of moms, and we've kind of been talking about parenting on and off and marriage and those kinds of things, and maybe I found this incredible quote from another Jane Austen book or something wonderful about her as a mother, or I guess she died when she was pregnant, but anyway, maybe you say something wonderful from another author or something that introduces this idea of this theme. And then you ask a question like, what are some things that Mr. Bennet did that were detrimental to his family? Okay? So everyone's going to think for a minute and they would say, well, he ignored his kids. He didn't really train and teach them, you know. Right. He talked really negatively about his wife, right? So you get all those things out. That would be kind of a principle-based question, which is one of the 5. You're kind of searching for the principles, in this instance, that he's breaking that are causing damage in his home. So then everybody has answered this question. Then you ask the next question. And when you ask the next question, this is when thinking really begins. Why were those things detrimental to his family? And you wait again. And you do not answer your own questions, and you do not lead, and you do not answer every other question that gets asked. Now, from that point on, you can proceed in a lot of different ways. You can have taught everybody the 5 types of questions and tell them to come prepared to ask one, and then you could go in a circle. What question did you bring, Mary? What question did you bring, Shauna? You know, I don't know. Go in a circle and let everybody ask a question. I've done that a lot. It works really, really well. You could ask who has a question to ask and let them ask a question. You could go by theme. You could say, now our theme for this month is this. Let's talk about all of this. You know, let's talk about courage in the book. Let's talk about love in the book. And then just let everybody go and discuss. But having everybody prepared with questions is by far, hands down, the easiest way to run a great discussion. And it creates the best discussion when you've chosen the right kind of reading. Throughout the discussion, you'll continue to enforce the rules, okay, in a loving way, right? Someone's got to be there owning the discussion, making sure that the rules and the boundaries that have been set are honored, okay? That's in another discussion tip video is discussion group rules. And so go over those, make sure you're clear on those, make sure you go over them with your group on a regular basis so that someone is there saying, you know, timer, just a handful of things that you do to make the discussion stay quality. And then the last thing you're going to do is a 5-minute ending, okay? So you're an example, right? You've got your intro, then you've got your great question, and then your next follow-up question, and then your ending. That's the basic structure, like that's the skeleton of leading a good discussion, is that you're following along whatever the criteria is for how your rules are going to work, and there's different ways that you can engage everyone in discussion. But if you're using reading skills and you're encouraging, maybe your group learns a reading skill every month and practices it, and you talk about it. You talk about the reading skill and how it went. There's all kinds of ways to engage everyone in discussion. Themes is huge, all that kind of stuff. That's again for another tip. But this is the skeleton of a great discussion. This ending, same criteria, inspirational. Have a time, honor the time, end on time, and let everybody leave with something really great, really positive and happy or uplifting, or something to really ponder, or a question that was hanging in the air and no one can answer, and everybody's going to go home and think about that some more. Remember, we succeed in our discussions when we inspire people to continue to be self-improving and self-educating. So that's your skeleton for a discussion. Implement them, and I promise you'll see improved experiences in your discussion groups. See you next time.